In the gathering dusk, Carlo Valerio steps onto his high wire. 600 feet of rope stretches before him. Cremorne Gardens, London, 1863. He's illuminated by thousands of gas lamps, and a sea of faces gaze up at him in awe. The wire suddenly snaps. 60 feet of empty air. And then, blood. By morning, he is dead. What no one understood in that terrible moment was that Valerio's fate was inevitable. 131 years before that fateful fall, in 1732, one man set a deadly domino effect in motion. He discovered people's love of danger, a social appetite so dark it would reshape entertainment forever. An appetite not just for art or beauty, but for the visceral thrill of watching others risk everything. And those profiting couldn't stop feeding it. Here's the story of the rise and fall of Britain's pleasure gardens.
The innocent beginning.
In 1728, Jonathan Tyers, who would become a true visionary, signed a 30-year lease for Vauxhall Spring Gardens. It was nothing more than a place for a simple stroll and a cup of tea, little more than a basic public garden next to a drinking house. Tyers revolutionized that humble garden stroll into a cultural phenomenon. He marked the grand opening of the newly renovated gardens in 1732 with a magnificent ridotto al fresco, an Italian-style masked ball. He then swiftly introduced a shilling entry fee. For just 1 shilling, he created a glorious cocktail of society, since most could afford it. All classes were given a rare chance to mingle. You would find the crème de la crème, aristocrats, and royalty who came to be seen. There was the nouveau riche, the burgeoning middle class of merchants, eager to show off their new wealth, and the aspiring curious, those with spare cash, like housemaids who had saved half a week's wages for this single night. Tyers also brought in music, turning the gardens into a cultural epicenter. The classical composer Handel premiered here. Even the young Mozart performed in the Great Room. The gardens became venues to tour and make debuts. And don't forget, they hadn't invented electricity yet. Thousands of oil lamps were used to turn the night into artificial daylight. It would have been a truly splendid sight. Tyers believed he was selling culture, refined entertainment, a space where Britain's rigid social hierarchy might bend without breaking. But he was mistaken. He discovered that opportunists would pay for misdeeds, for the thrill of crossing boundaries, and for something darker, much darker.
The first taste.
The dark walks showcase how the Victorians loved the darkness. Tyers realized that individuals would pay for a space where vice was not just tolerated, but expected. So he intentionally kept certain paths unlit, while the main areas blazed with light. On those dark paths, Victorian morality went out the window. So, prostitution flourished, dodgy dealings were done, and pickpockets worked the crowds. At masquerade balls, aristocrats flirted with commoners behind masks, men dressed as women, and servants pretended to be nobility. The masks did not just hide identities, they liberated them. And the Victorians were willing to pay for a night of freedom. They paid for the chance to watch others break rules they would not break themselves. They paid for the thrill of witnessing transgression from a safe distance. One Baptist minister condemned the gardens as a nursery of vice, referring to the after-dark activities involving prostitution, robbery, and assaults. He believed he was criticizing them when he was actually explaining their business model. Tyers discovered that the appetite for scandal was bottomless. People do not simply want to see beautiful things. They want to see dangerous things, forbidden things, things that might go terribly wrong. Pandora's box had been opened, and now there was only one direction to go: further. By the 1840s, elegant concerts were no longer enough. The fashionable set had grown bored. Competitors emerged: other gardens, music halls, casinos, newer thrills. The garden proprietors faced a choice: return to simple entertainment or chase the appetite they had awakened. They chased it.
The exploitation.
The transformation was impressive in itself. Tightrope walkers replaced string quartets. Acrobats flew above where opera singers once stood. But this wasn't Vauxhall's social transgression anymore. It was the pure, cynical commerce of death. Leading the charge in this new, dangerous era was a different venue: Cremorne Gardens. Its proprietors understood the true nature of the product. It was no longer about social mingling. It was about risk and anticipation. On September 16th, 1850, a giant coronation balloon ascended into darkness at Cremorne Gardens, surrounded by fireworks and purple light. The crowd watched, necks craned, knowing that the weather could change in an instant. The equipment could fail. One mishap could transform entertainment into tragedy. Pauline Violante, dubbed the female Blondin, walked tightropes across the River Thames. The length of the crossing, height above the water, and very real possibility of a fatal fall provided the danger people wanted to see. On August 7th, 1865, the extraordinary sailing balloon L'Espérance, invented and constructed by Monsieur Delamarne, ascended from Cremorne Gardens. This novel and remarkable balloon was nearly 200 feet in length, 50 feet in diameter, and 150 feet in circumference. It had screw propellers and a rudder, similar to those of a ship, which were set in motion by machinery. The gardens became the place to showcase wonderful new inventions, even when they could be extremely dangerous. To whet the public's appetite for more, the Cremorne proprietors staged massive military reenactments. The most infamous was a battle scene in which 60 soldiers from the Grenadier Guards crowded onto a platform 20 feet above the ground. The staging was cheap, the carpentry was not sound, and as you might expect, the structure eventually gave way. The resulting collapse injured dozens of men. It was a horrific scene, and it all happened before two of the most prominent royals, Prince Albert and the Queen herself. Yet this didn't slow the wild business tactics down. Monsieur Vincent de Grouf, the Flying Man, represented the absolute pinnacle of this madness. On the evening of July 9th, 1874, de Grouf kissed his wife farewell and climbed into his apparatus, 35 feet of silk bat wings and an 18-foot peacock tail. A balloon lifted him skyward as the crowd below cheered. The Belgian shoemaker had made an attempt at this stunt before, reportedly successful, though witnesses whispered the contraption never actually detached from the balloon. But Cremorne needed spectacle, and spectacle sold tickets. The plan was to ascend to 700 feet, cut loose, and glide down into the River Thames. Everyone knew the physics wouldn't work. De Grouf probably knew it too. But the crowd had paid to see him try. They had paid to watch a man test the limits of human possibility. They had paid to see if he would fly or fall. The wings collapsed. The apparatus tilted and closed around him like a shroud. He plummeted onto Sydney Street, smashing into the pavement and breaking his neck. The crowd got their evening's entertainment. A man's final moments played out before their eyes. Still, the risk continued to escalate, with each new act needing to be more dangerous than the last. The wire must be higher, The fall must be longer. The possibility of death must be more real, and they couldn't stop.
The inevitable end.
June 27th, 1863. Carlo Valerio is nearly at the turnaround point of his high-wire act when the rope gives way. All the witnesses of Valerio's gruesome fall, particularly the female members of the corps de ballet, were dreadfully shocked and affected. Many struggled to go through their performance afterwards. He died in the early hours of the following morning at Chelsea Hospital. Proprietor E.T. Smith published a letter.
No such exhibition will ever again be permitted to take place here as long as I remain the proprietor.
But it was too late. The gardens had wounded themselves fatally, the beginning of their end. And soon afterwards, 3 outside forces delivered the killing blow. Urban sprawl swallowed the once rural escapes. Railways made the real countryside accessible, and free public parks could offer everything the gardens had left to provide. Cremorne Gardens closed in 1877. The site was sold for housing development, consumed by the very urban expansion it once offered escape from. The legal framework that emerged from the garden's ashes eventually evolved into modern health and safety regulations. Today's amusement parks operate under comprehensive rules about inspections, maintenance, and operator training. But the dark side survives.
We're still selling danger.
Today, reality television contestants are eating unusual things and risking hypothermia. Extreme sports athletes push human limits on camera. Social media influencers are performing increasingly dangerous stunts for views. Would you gamble your life doing something that might go catastrophically wrong for fame and fortune? We are not paying shillings anymore. We are paying with attention, with clicks, with engagement. But we are paying for the same thing the Victorians paid for: the thrill of watching others risk their lives. The platforms are digital now, but the business model is identical. Sell the possibility of disaster, escalate when audiences grow bored, and hope the wire does not snap. The Victorians' pleasure gardens revealed that people will pay to watch others risk all, and we have spent the last 150 years proving it. The Victorians did not invent our appetite for such grim entertainment. They simply offer a wonderful example in history of those who monetized the tease of real danger on a grand scale. If you want more stories like this, do like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're not just here to talk about history. We're here to relate and question ourselves in the present day. And there are so many dark lessons left to learn.